Sahavatu Sahanam Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Vejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, so page 66, Adhikarana 5. The confidential servants of Godhead explain that any man can attain to transcendental loving service of Godhead by his own occupation. So why are we dealing with this Adhikarana? What is the? How did we end up here in this statement? What was the previous development of the Sri Prabhupada's analysis? First, we had to establish that it is possible to attain liberation by the mercy of Krishna, and then how is it possible for ordinary person to approach God? This was the doubt. And now we understand that everybody can attain the mercy and liberation, the mercy of God through his occupation. So what? So you read the Adhikarana? You did? Okay. So 1-1. Okay. So what's is there something that you want to discuss specifically, or something interesting, or something you? I really want to just to make an outline of the whole thing.
No, it was clear.
Yeah, everything is clear. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, main point.
Yeah, what do you
Maybe
mean?
some subtle things. Yeah. I understood this Varnashrama very important. And without Varnashrama, we cannot attain spiritual platform. We can, but with Varnashrama it will be more easy.
Stepping stone principle.
Yeah. It's more easy for conditioned souls. And one point, we need to follow our nature honestly.
Yes. It's a good word.
Otherwise, we will lose our life. Lose our life.
Literally.
Huh?
Literally.
Yeah.
You waste time.
Waste time.
Because you perform somebody else's duty.
Yeah. It's very important. Therefore, we should honestly accept Guru, Śāstra, and Sadhu. And means Śāstra means we should accept opinion of Krishna. Krishna is Śāstra. Then we will in good shape.
And this point that you mentioned, I just remember something, that we should honestly perform our own duty. I remember recently in New York, somebody was giving class, one of the devotees, and then I think Chandrasekhar Maharaj gave class, and then in the purport, the discussion was about the guru, about the role of the spiritual master. Then this was the topic of the verse. And then in the purport, Srila Prabhupada spoke, commented, exclusively almost, the whole purport was dedicated on the ability of the spiritual master to engage the disciple according to his nature. The verse itself, I don't remember the verse, but it didn't sound to me that it is exclusively focusing on this point. It was more like a general verse about the importance of the guru, how the guru is giving spiritual knowledge. And Prabhupada focused only on this point. How the qualification of the guru is that he can see the nature of the disciple. That means basically what we're talking now. The confidential servants of Godhead explained that any man can attain to transcendental loving service of Godhead by his own occupation. So first of all, he has to ascertain the nature of the disciple and engage the disciple accordingly. So that was the whole thing.
A question how to understand nature of disciple, because sometimes it's difficult when Kali Yuga different configuration, amount of rules.
Yeah, because there is a mixture usually. You're not purely in one.
Yeah.
Even when there is a mixture, usually one part is predominant. That's usually, at least I can see. So one part.
Some time the guru and disciple should be together, and the guru should observe on his disciple.
That's why, yeah, I think the gurus, they do this. At least in my experience, I've noticed that when it happened to me, it happened to some of my friends. When you establish relationship, sambandha with a spiritual master, that usually what happens, of course, if you're brahmachari, you have the time. If you're grihastha, it's difficult because then you have to have so many things to do. You cannot just stay with your guru, but usually the guru engages you in his service. That's what happened to me with the friends of mine. But then he observes you, apparently. That's what happens. He sees you because he is with you at least for a couple of weeks or a month or a couple of months. And then engages the disciple according to nature. So even when there is a mixture, then usually one part is predominant, and usually it means the way that you maintain yourself. How do you make your money? Through teaching, through education, through protection, through business or agriculture or some other way. It's not so difficult to see. Bhakti Thakur explains that before in India, they were the elders of the village, and they would gather and they would establish when the boy is like around 14, they'll tell what the Dharma is. And if, let's say, he was from a Brahmana family, but he did not perform well enough to be a Brahmana, then they would give him 1 year to rectify. They'll tell him, you have to improve this and this. And if after 1 year the Dharma will be fixed. Of course, it doesn't mean that it cannot change also in the future. People can develop in certain area. So that's the responsibility of the guru and of the senior devotees also. The temple president also, he has to know how to do this. All the authorities who engage people in service, they have to be acquainted with the science of Varnashram. What is the inherent nature of these varnas?
Yeah, but artists, see sometimes managers engage people according to not their nature, according to situation.
Yeah. And this creates trouble.
Yes, yeah. Sometimes we can do it.
Emergency,
but usually.
sustainable, then it's difficult. Yeah. But usually it shouldn't be done like this, because then people can become really disappointed if they have to do something that is not according to their nature for a long time. Of course, sometimes people say, well, you have to surrender, but it's not, in the long run, this is not the best approach, because if we are so surrendered, then the question won't be placed at all. Then, okay, if I'm so surrendered, I don't care what I have to do. But obviously, everybody acts according to the nature he has. In Bhagavad-gītā, Krishna says, even the wise follow their nature. So it's a rather managerial decision, but it's not the ideal situation. On the other hand, like let's say my life in the Hare Krishna movement, I became book distributor from before even I joined the temple. So this was my service, became my service. But this was my choice. Nobody asked me to decide. Very enthusiastic, and I'm still. But very soon, maybe first or second day, I realized this is not my nature. It is definitely not my nature. If I would have make a list of 10 different types of devotional service I would like to do, book distribution wouldn't make it on the top 10, maybe not even top 20. It was like just exactly the opposite of what I wanted to do for my nature, just contrary. So, but I was determined that I would like this service because Krishna Prabhupada wanted it so much, and it took time. Now I like it, but it took long, about 10, 15 years struggle. And this can create serious problems in many people. So better to avoid this, especially when people become more mature, then it's more scope of asking them just to surrender. Okay, Prabhu, we have this in this situation, and still, let's say if somebody comes to me now and asks me to become a manager for some big project, I'll say no. There's some limits. And on the other hand, I heard once one guru, he said that he became guru only because Prabhupada asked him. And he said, I couldn't say no to Prabhupada. Okay, what else? It was about the occupation, about that we have to be honest about our duty. Prabhupada makes the point that if somebody is attracted, we'll read this through. If someone is attracted to the work of the Shudra, naturally, he shouldn't pretend that he's a Brahman just because this will ensure supply higher social status.
What we want to avoid, because when what is joining to ISKCON, I mean, spiritual life, everyone must some high level position or service. And they think, oh, I will do only kind of work which is more comfortable, more, how to say, acceptable for everyone. Not other work. It is not popular or not
respectable, not prestigious. My friend of mine told me there was this funny story of the son and the father. They're talking, and the father asked the son, "So, my dear son, what kind of job you want to take now? You are already grown up." And the son goes, "I'd like to have five fingers." 5 fingers job. What is this 5 fingers job? I'm just to carry my suitcase. 5 fingers. And then he would go 4 fingers, 2 fingers. At one point it was 2 fingers job. I vote, I abstain, I don't vote, no, I'm against. So if he wanted just to be part of some committee, just votes. So a similar mentality. But it is an obstacle on the path of bhakti, right? It is not Anukurena Krishna Muslim and Bhagavad-gītā. It is obviously there's some material desires there for prestige, for sanctification. Well, that's why the position, the role of the leaders is to point out this junior devotees and to explain why it is bad, why it's wrong, why it is improper. Understand? Well, anyway, you haven't read the Adhikarana, but you still qualify to say something. We will not forbid you to take part in the discussion just because you happen not to have read the. So don't feel shy to contribute. So I have prepared something here. Something like an outline of this Adhikarana. Then I will point out something that made impression. That was I found interesting. So first, Krishna explains. Study guide Prabhupada's analysis explains that everyone can attain the Lord by his own occupation. And the first thing that happens in this Adhikarana is the first lesson. The first 2 lessons explain what are those positions. Everybody can attain the Lord through his own position, but what are those positions? This is not something arbitrary. It is established by the Lord. So why it is established? What are the positions? Because unless we have transcendental knowledge about these situations, positions in life, then we will speculate on them. Krishna has to explain to us what are the natural divisions of human psychology, human psyche, and what are the rules that pertain to each and every one of those 8 positions, 4 social and 4 spiritual. Because these are material positions and they have weaknesses and strengths, and the authority has to explain to us how to avoid, how to strengthen the weaknesses and how to take full advantage of the positives, of the advantages of these positions. If you're Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, Brahmacharya, Shastra, this is the innate, inherent knowledge, inherent nature. It is explained in Shastra, and therefore we find out what is our position inside with the help of the superiors. Then we take our position and we perform our duty according to Shastra. Therefore, first of all, these positions are laid down. The 4 castes are scattered all over the universe according to acquired qualities and the modes of nature. So what happens? We associate with the modes of nature in different capacities, different bodies, and then gradually we acquire different tastes. We want to be in contact with certain combinations of the 3 modes, and according to this, we attain different type of human body. And in this lifetime, I am attracted to work in the mode of goodness or passion or ignorance or in between. But according to this, my varna will be assigned. And then lesson 33, the Brahmanas, the Kshatriyas, the Vaishyas, and the Shudras. Here there is a description of the qualities of the Brahmanas and the Kshatriyas, and the work or the occupation done by the Vaishyas and the Shudras. So there is there are qualities of the Brahmanas and the Kshatriyas, and work for the Vaishyas, Shudras. Working meaning that Krishna just describes what kind of work they do. In other words, for the Brahmanas and the Kshatriyas, if they don't possess these qualities, because it's clearly stated, Brahma karmas for bhavaja. Through these qualities, the Brahmanas perform their duty. So that means if they don't have these qualities, they cannot perform their duties properly. The same goes for the Kshatriyas, but it is not stated in the same way about the Vaishyas. For them, it's just stated what they do. There are other places in Bhagavatam where their qualities are described. Okay, so these are the positions. So this is the beginning. And then lesson 34 says that any man can attain transcendental loving service to Godhead by his own occupation. So now here comes the process of ascertaining your occupation. So we spoke about this a little bit, discussed how you have to take the help of the seniors and be honest. And then once this is done, once we are clear about who we are materially, then we have to perform our duty. And we have to stay in our occupation. Stay in our occupation meaning, as we said, if we have discovered that we are naturally Shudra, we shouldn't be upset or disturbed by this, and we should just stick to our own occupation. Of course, we are not a Shudra. Gopi Bharata Padakama Dasana. So we are servants of Krishna. We are neither Shudra, Brahma, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Brahmachari, Sannyasi, Danaprastha, Grihastha. But it is conducive for our spiritual advancement if we take clear stand according to Varnashrama, as clear as possible. It is good for us, it will save us trouble, it will avoid many anxieties, etc. Because by establishing our position, then our set of duty becomes very clear, and for the rest of the society, it is also easier to deal with us because they know who we are, they know what to expect from us. So therefore, the society can function very smoothly because we are predictable in our behavior. We're predictable. Okay, here's a brahmachari. Brahmacharis, Krishna explains, Mama explains in Dharma Shastra, Narada Muni explains in Bhagavatam, Yajnavalkya explains in different Smriti Shastras. Brahmacharis, their nature is like this, they deal like this, you can expect from them such and such behavior. So people are comfortable. Okay, yes, Brahmachari. Okay, I know. Maybe I don't know him personally, but he's into this broad category. So I don't have to be anxiety about these guys. He won't surprise me. There won't be unpleasant surprise. Otherwise, you just see somebody in the monastery, you don't really know who is this guy. People are always on guard because there's so many crazy people around and they don't know what to expect. So people are unpredictable, so they don't want to even deal with strangers. Therefore, in the subway in New York, nobody talks to anybody, and you're not supposed to look at the people because it's also considered awkward. So, therefore, Varnashrama is very important in this sense. It creates sense of security, predictability, and some pattern that you can follow. And just by following this and not being anxiety about it, being comfortable with it, then your mind can focus on more important things. You think about Krishna, you can chant. Otherwise, you all the time, you don't know who is who. You walk around. This person is dressed like a sadhu, but then you see he's smoking. Then you don't know. And anybody can be a serial killer. There's the modern society, and this is the Varnashram society. So then we have to take a clear stand who we are and act accordingly, so that people say that we're comfortable, and people are also comfortable with us. And Shri Prabhupada says that lesson 32. So these verses are very interesting. By worshipping the Lord, who is the source of all beings and who is all pervading, a man can attain perfection through performing his own work. So how can a man attain perfection through performing his own work? How is this possible? So in the purport, Śrīla Prabhupada says that everyone should think that he is engaged in a particular type of occupation by Hrishikesh, the master of the senses. Okay, so this is not just my job, but this is my duty. I have been engaged in doing this by Krishna. This is God's job. God wants it. These are the Crusaders who are parading all over Europe and in the Holy Lands. This was their slogan. God wants it. They killed many people with this. But in this case, we have to think like this. Krishna engaged me in this occupation. Of course, it should be not sinful type of activity. It should be according to our nature, sanctioned by authorities, by Shastra. So in this way, already we establish connection with Krishna. It is not just a work. It is service to the Lord. He engaged me in this. He told me, in other words, he told me, you do this job because it is according to your inherent nature in this life. You have to be engaged properly, so this is your engagement. And by the result, and then another way to connect to Krishna, what we're doing, our job. And by the result of the work in which one is engaged, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna, should be worshipped. So first of all, the job as it is, our occupation, we engaged in our occupation by Krishna, and also the results of our occupation are also for Krishna. So in two ways we are spiritualizing our job and our work, and therefore, in the beginning of Bhagavad-gītā, one of the main topics of discussion is how to transform our ordinary job into yajna, sacrifice. So this is the way. By being conscious that we engaged by Krishna, that the result is for Krishna. If one thinks always in this way, in full Krishna consciousness, then by the grace of the Lord, he becomes fully aware of everything. That's a far-out statement. Fully aware of everything. What does it mean? Fully aware of everything. And then Prabhupada says, that is the perfection of life. The Supreme Lord himself takes charge of delivering such a devotee. That is the highest perfection of life for me. This is the perfection of life, that is the highest perfection of life. In whatever occupation one may be engaged, if he serves the Supreme Lord, he will achieve the highest perfection. Okay? Then the next verse, Krishna says, it is better to engage in one's own occupation, even though one may perform it imperfectly, than to accept another's occupation and perform it perfectly. Duties prescribed according to one's nature are never affected by sinful reactions. In other words, if this is our duty according to our nature, then they're not sinful. We may not perform them perfectly, but if we perform them properly according to the rules, then we won't incur sin. If we perform somebody else's duty, this is sinful. No matter how perfectly you perform it. There was this story, different stories. I remember one story about, Dhruva Maharaj. Dhruva Maharaj, he went on pilgrimage. He wanted to see some special form of the Lord, Pitambara, and then on the way he saw a ascetic, a person who was obviously performing austerities, who was also carrying weapons. In other words, this was not proper. You either ascetic or you are kshatriya. You cannot do both unless you're parashura. And then Dhruva Maharaj challenged this person. He said, you are, because this is the duty of a king, exactly, to make sure that everyone performs his duty. And then, so that's the example. The person was immediately challenged, and then they fought for a long time. And Dhruva Maharaj, before the fight began, Dhruva Maharaj gave a vow: I will, for sure, I will conquer you. I will defeat you. But then he couldn't defeat this person. The first day, the second day, for many days they were fighting. They were fighting during the day, and then at night they were taking rest, doing other things. So one morning, I think it was Dhruva Maharaj. Dhruva Maharaj performed puja. Before the fight in the morning, he did his puja, he put garland on his deity, and then he went to fight. And then he saw the same garland on the shoulders of this person who was fighting. And then he understood that this is actually Krishna. And then there was very beautiful exchange between them, but Dhruva Maharaj was still worried. Because he gave a vow that which he could not fulfill, that he will conquer. And then he said, my work now is in vain. And then Krishna said, no, we are always conquered by you. Meaning by your devotion. But the initial point was that one should perform his duty and shouldn't mix different duties, because this is sinful. Okay. Yeah.
If one is engaged, let's say, above his varna, what would be the symptoms of it? How you could recognize it?
Usually, he would not have the proper attitude. He might perform he might have the skills and even the knowledge, but the values, the character won't be necessarily very developed. He might be performing very nicely different yagyas or rituals or worship or sanskaras, but the mood behind it would be a little funny. He's doing it, he's cutting the profile, doing it because he wants to be in this high position, not because this is his duty and okay, that's what I do. This guy, he does agriculture, this guy, he plays some music, and I do some yagas. Everybody has to do something. If you see these brahmanas, well, true brahmanas, they're just, this is just their field of activity. I remember Bhagwan Goranga, when he was here, Bhagwan Goranga, just now he's in South, before he was here in Mayapur. I would go sometimes to see him. He had in his room a huge trunk, metal trunk full of books. And this was his library. So whenever he wanted to give some reference, so he would go there and start browsing through, and then he would find a book, some book, and then he would open, then he would quote from the book. So without any pretense, no, just that's what I do, that's. So you see, that's my life, this trunk with books. No prestige, in other words, he doesn't do it for prestige, for gain, name gain, lava puja pratishta. This might be one symptom. There might be other symptoms. Yes.
So more specifically, if someone who's not a Brahmana is holding the position of a Brahmana, they may quote Shastra, but they'll do so in a way that they're trying to influence your opinion. That's not the Brahminical quality. The Brahminical quality is that they'll only quote Shastra, but they're also detached from whether or not you follow it. So if you find that someone is trying to actually influence what your decision should be, then it's less of a Brahminical quality. Same with Kshatriya. Kshatriyas, their nature is to protect others. That's why they make law, and that's why they, what's the word when they enforce the laws that they make. It's all about protection, right? But if we find that the law and the order, the enforcement, are only there to make money, then that means they're Vaishyas that are taking the posts of Kshatriyas. So just by the mentality, you can see it has nothing to do with the position that they're holding, as Mishai pointed out, but the actual attitude that one has with it. So if you're working above your varna, it'll show. It'll show because you won't actually fit the qualities.
Yeah. These qualities, we didn't read them, but here. Shamadama, peacefulness, self-control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, knowledge, wisdom, and religiousness. For example, they won't be there so much. They won't be.
Oh, and then for the Vaishyas, their thing is they have this mixture of passion and ignorance. So they're willing to take a calculated risk. So if you find a businessman, for example, who something didn't work out on his end, but he makes the consumer pay for it, then he's actually not a Vaishya, right? So he's working above his also, because he's working on that. I do this, I get this. That's the Shudra mentality. So if he has a product, right, and he sells it to you, but it's broken, right? If he says no, you must have broken it, he's not actually a Vaishya. True Vaishya will say, oh, I'm sorry, this is my fault. He understands that was part of his calculated risk. But if it, under no circumstance can it cut into their profit, that's not a Vaishya. So each of these you can see whether the nature will match or not. Sorry. Oh.
Thank you. Yesterday I had some experience. I was going to Navi to fix one thing, but I missed because there are many shops with the same items.
Yeah.
So I went to one shop site and was claiming that it was bought. Even the same arrangement of things inside like this, I completely could not recognize the shop. So I went to other one, but he told me he's not from his shop. And he sent me to fix this thing, not to replace, but to fix who is repairing it. And then I came to the right shop. I recognized the right shop finally. I already had fixed thing, and I told him, Prabhu, this was leaking. And he told me, you should come to me. I would have everything replaced. It was like his duty to do it. So yeah, this is exactly his mentality.
Yes, the point Chandra made. If somebody is taking position of a Brahmana, but he wants to control, this is very dangerous. So that means he wants to be both Brahmana and Kshatriya. He wants to have the prestige of a Brahmana, but he also wants to manage things. but it's not proper. I have to choose one of those. Yes, so.
Or even worse, if they're trying to control in order to make profit, then it's actually a Vaishya and Brahmana. It's even worse.
Yeah, it's lower. Yeah, Brahmana who is preaching to buy from his health products because Shastra says that ghee is very good, you know. So he's quoting Shastra, but actually it's a problem.
He owns the ghee industry.
And yeah.
Or even one worse, because why not? Let's go all the way to the bottom. Say someone is actually hired by someone. Okay, we're gonna put you in this position. Don't worry, we're gonna give you everything you need. Here's your house. Here's your everything. So it's just an exchange, and then they promote whatever the person who put them in that position. So that's actually a Shudra in the position of a Brahmana controlled by a Vaishya.
It's a mess.
It gets crazy. But that's what it is, yeah. If they're only there because of an exchange, like, okay, if you do this, then here's your security. That's not a Brahmana either. Brahmana does it because it's the right thing to do. And he knows that Krishna is providing, so he doesn't need anybody else to say, I'll provide you with a flat and a car and this and that. No, because that's coming through. It'll come through others, so donation, sure, no problem. But if that's the deal, like the only reason I'm accepting this position is because of these perks, that are coming along with it. That's Shudra. Straight up, even if you're quoting Shastra. So it's the mood. It's a nature as being pointed out. Recently I was reading that because Sanjay Prabhu was asking, sometimes it's difficult to tell one's nature. And you, of course, gave one of the standard things, basically however you're maintaining yourself, that will give you an indication of where you are. But even when younger, I was just reading this recently, so we might even be covering it this afternoon. But you can observe a child without intervening. You just observe and you see what they're doing, and you'll know what their nature is. So if by nature they see another child, they fell down and they go over and help them out, they're kshatriya, they're protecting, right? There's other things like that, but you can observe these things. Not when you ask them, because if you ask them, then they're going to say what they think is the right answer. But if you just see their natural inclination, not knowing that they're being observed, what their actions will do, they do this automatically, then okay, that's the tendency. And you'll see that it happens over and over. They're consistent in their nature. When people are watching, when they know people are watching, they may act in a different way. We see that kids do that all the time. Sometimes they look around first, right? Especially the ones that are going to do something dishonest. They want to make sure they're not going to get caught, right? But that's the trick, is to just sort of stand back, not ask them questions. What would you do in this situation? If blah, 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 then they'll give you the answer that they think is right. But if you just watch the situation, then you'll know what the nature is. So these things are there. Those who know how to observe these things can.
It's a very good point. Manu says, I remember reading this in Manu, that nature, he defines nature as the natural proclivity that comes forward without the influence of the teacher. Nobody tells them what to do. Nobody asks them.
Yeah.
They're just being observed how they behave. Well, in other words, what is their value in life? What their value in life? So therefore, we see in Chaitanya Bhagavata, there is a description of a ceremony they made for Lord Chaitanya when he was very small, only mine. There was different items displayed, and then the child would naturally go and be attracted to one of these items and pick it up. Bhagavatam, money, gold, something like that. Actually funny, but we had this tradition in my country as well. I don't know if you guys have this. It's called, there is a word for this. It's a ritual, it's a samskar. It's the same thing. But then, they put a book, money, different things, and then the child is just like in the room, and then he will naturally be attracted to the item that represents his nature in this lifetime. And we know from Mahabharata when the Pandavas won Draupadi, nobody knew who these people are. They were dressed as brahmanas. They obviously, it's doubtful whether they were brahmanas or not. But they were dressed as brahmanas, so they were taken as brahmanas. When Arjuna won Draupadi, Draupadi's brother, Dhishtadyumna, was sent by the king to, like a spy, basically, to ascertain who are those people by trying to observe exactly, to see how they talk, what they're talking about, and then, in other words, they wanted to see what the Varna is. They didn't know. And then, when they were invited to the palace of Drupad, they were let in a room, and in the room they displayed different things. They did the same thing to them, but they were also observing them. First of all, there were thrones, kings to sit. There were books, there were weaponry, there were agricultural items, and there were some things for shooting. So Pandavas, they immediately went to start discussing weapons, and then they sat on the thrones at ease. They were just sitting on the thrones. These were kingly. They were not just like asanas for brahmins. If you put a brahmin on the throne, he won't feel comfortable. You can tell he doesn't feel comfortable sitting like. But they were like sitting like. And then this Dhishtadyumna and Drupad, they saw that and they said, well, now we know these are kshatriyas. Also the voice, when Krishna, Bhima, and Arjuna went to Jarasandha to get rid of him, basically, because he was the obstacle for the Rajasuya sacrifice of Yudhishthira. So they were not sure how to deal with this guy. He was very powerful. And then Uddhava gave advice: let's just avoid all this bloodshed, and you just go and invite him to single combat, and he won't refuse because he's very devoted to the Brahminical culture. If you're dressed as Brahmas, he won't refuse. So that's what they did. And when Jarasandha saw them, he understood these are not Brahmanas. These are Kshatriyas. How did he figure? Because they had very deep, low voices, which are accustomed to giving orders. This is the first thing we said in Krishna book. They had the marks on their shoulders from carrying weaponry, bows. There are certain things you can see, and they were well built. But these are not Brahmanas. Understood? So different symptoms, but one should know what to look for. Okay. So it's better to engage in one's occupation. If we engage in someone else's occupation, unless this is an emergency and we have to do it, this betrays some deficiency in character. You want to become recognized as a superior personality, you have the prestige of this position, some other ulterior, inferior motivation. Okay, let's read a little bit here. It's very interesting. One's occupational duty is prescribed in Bhagavad-gītā. As already discussed in previous verses, the duties of a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra are prescribed according to their particular mode of nature. One should not imitate another's duty. A man who is by nature attracted to the king, to the kind of work done by Shudras, should not artificially claim to be a Brahmana, although he may be born into a Brahman family. This way, one should work according to his own nature. No work is abominable, if performed in the service of the Supreme Lord. Otherwise, we will have problem. And then, let's say my favorite fruit is apples. That's what I really like. But I heard that mangoes is the king of the fruit. So then I want to be up to the standard, so I eat mangoes. But in front of others. But when I go home, I'll eat my apples again. We won't be happy. People also won't be satisfied because they'll sense that there is something wrong. Yeah, there was this example given by some devotees about the example of the hospitals being run by Vaishyas. It's not a good situation because these occupations, law, medicine, what else, astrology, they are usually done by Brahmanas because it requires character. In these places, people are most vulnerable their health and their legal situation. People are really scared when something like this happens. So that means they can be easily exploited. If you're scared, that's what happens in a large scale nowadays in society. First, there is people create fear in society that something really bad is coming, like COVID is coming, and COVID came. So it's very fearsome situation. So then we have to restrict your rights, your privacy, and people are okay because they're scared. So when people are afraid, it's easy to manipulate them. So therefore, in these positions are put brahmanas who will not take unduly advantage of people, doctors, judges, lawyers, all these people should be with good character. And what happens when the Vaishya runs the hospital? Then the goal is not the health and service, not performance of duty. The goal is making money with all the consequences. So it's not. But this is a Vaishya who runs business where he shouldn't run this business. For Brahman, it's bad for everyone, even for this guy. It's also not good. So yeah.
If there is a mix of nature, let's say 1/2 or 1/3 or something more Varna.
I saw this mixture because we have Varna Shankara. Shankara means mixed. Because we have our generations, Varnashram was not followed properly. So what to do then? Then now we have to understand, to identify the predominant element and follow this way. It makes the life more difficult because you have these disturbances coming down from others, other elements, but as much as possible. And then, let's say, if you are a mixture between Brahmana, Shudra, and Kshatriya, for example, then whenever you engaged in your Brahminical occupation, you should follow the Brahminical rules. Let's say you have a job, 9 to 5. And then while you are doing your job, you should follow the rules for Shudra. You should follow your boss. But then when you at 6 come to perform the Gaurarati, because in your temple there are more deities than devotees, so there is no pujari unless the congregation comes to do the puja and the puja will stop. And when you come to the temple to do the puja, to the Gaurarati, then you have to follow the Brahmin codes. You cannot just say now, I'm a Shudra, I don't have to take shower now because I'm a Shudra. I don't have to control my senses, I don't have to perform the arati as it is described in Pancharatra Pradip because it is for Brahmins, not artists. I will switch a few items today. I will start with the with the chamara, and I will end with incense because that's how I feel today. So whatever is the mixture, is the predominant element, and whatever you're doing right now, you have to do it according to these rules. If you do Brahminical work, you follow the Brahminical rules. Then when you do your Shudra work, then you follow. But overall, one has to always remember Krishna and never forget, no matter what he does. But this stays. It's a matter of identifying what is the predominant, which element will be easier to work with. Practically. And you can maintain it throughout the whole life. And if it's the lower element, it's not a big deal. And don't think that the grass is greener on the other side, because it's never. Few Prabhupada will explain in one of the next purpose. That there is no perfect situation in material world. Brahmanas also have to perform some of their duties are like they have to perform sometimes sacrifice for some people, killing animals. It's not nice. Kshatriyas sometimes have to fight with their friends, as they did. Draupadi in Mahabharata was cursing quite often, from what I have seen, the Kshatriya Dharma. She was so upset several times. For example, when Arjuna had to go for 1 year in exile, she was very upset. She was, the hell with this Kshatriya, because Kshatriyas, they have to do these things. They gave their work, they had to follow. Vaishyas, Prabhupada says, they sometimes have to cheat. Otherwise, they are out of business. This is also not nice. And Shudras, sometimes they have to serve somebody who's of questionable character. There is no perfect situation. Okay. Yeah, this is coming up. Every endeavor, this is 1848, every endeavor is covered by some fault. Just as fire is covered by smoke, therefore one should not give up the work born of his nature, or something. Even if such work is full of fault. Because all of them are full of faults. I mean, when you go up the hierarchy, of course, the Brahminical is the best, but still, Brahmanas have their own weaknesses. Okay, somebody wants to read this purpose? Unconditional life, all work is contaminated by material.
Unconditional life, all work is contaminated by the material modes of nature. Even if one is a Brahmana, he has to perform sacrifices in which animal killing is necessary. Similarly, Kshatriya, however pious he may be, has to fight enemies. He cannot avoid it. Similarly, a merchant, however pious he may be, must sometimes hide his profit to stay in business, or he may sometimes have to do business on the black market. These things are necessary. One cannot avoid them. Similarly, even though a man is a Shudra serving a bad master, he has to carry out the order of the master, even though it should not be done. Despite these flaws, one should continue to carry out his prescribed duties, for they are born out of his own nature. One should not give up his material occupation because there are some disturbing elements. Rather, one should be determined to serve the Supreme Lord by his occupational duty in Krishna consciousness. That is the perfectional point. When a particular type of occupation is performed for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord, all the defects in that particular occupation are purified. When the result of work are purified, when connected with devotional service, one becomes perfect in seeing the self within, and that is self-realization.
Okay, so very important. When a particular type of occupation is performed for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord, all the defects in that particular occupation are purified. After this pastime, when Bali Maharaj gave away the whole universe to Vamana, and Vamanadev asked Śāstra-cakṣuṣā, my dear Brahmana, please describe the faults in the sacrifice performed by your disciple and lay down the prayachiti for them. And Śāstra-cakṣuṣā, he said, my dear Lord, there is no any fault, whatever discrepancies there were in here and in any other case, in principle, in chanting the mantras, paraphernalia and time, place, circumstance, whatever discrepancies there are, Tava Sankirtanam, Anu Sankirtanam Tava. By chanting your holy name, all discrepancies are rectified. There is no discrepancy. So all these faults, natural faults, in all these types of duties are rectified when they're connected to Krishna. Okay. And then the next lesson. Okay, so what happened till now? Well, first of all, we identified the different occupations, the different positions. Everybody can attain Krishna by following his occupation. So first of all, Krishna shows what are the occupations. And then, by staying in our occupation, we satisfy the Lord, we attain liberation, evil, and we should not think that because this occupation is high, we should go there. We should just stick to our own duty rather than performing somebody else's duty. And then in the next lesson it says that, okay, this is very well, but lesson 35, only under transcendental modes can the ordinary fruitive workers, salvations, and mystics also attain to God. Okay, so we are very liberal. Through any occupation, through any process, one can attain the Lord. This is the liberal part. No matter what you do, whatever, anyhow or rather, but you have to fix your mind on Krishna. But only under transcendental modes this can happen. And here, in this lesson 35, there are given 3 reference verses. And they refer to what? They all show how one can become devotee, but they refer to David 9:27 refers to karma, 7:19 refers to jnana, and 6:47 refers to yoga. In other words, we're very liberal, we're all inclusive. Everybody, all welcome. Still, Vedanta philosophy is also very exact. All are welcome, but all should mold their consciousness in a certain way, which is favorable for Krishna, developing Krishna consciousness. Okay, so then basically here there is a description how a karmi, jnani, and a yogi can become devotee. That's what Prabhupada describes. So first we start with karma. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer or give away, and whatever austerities you perform, do that, or son of Kunti, as an offering to me. Thus, it is the duty of everyone to mold his life in such a way that he will not forget Krishna in any circumstance. Everyone has to work for maintenance of his body and soul together. And Krishna recommends herein that one should work for him. So work for me, Krishna says. Everyone has to eat something to live. Therefore, he should accept the remnants of foodstuffs offered to Krishna. Any civilized man has to perform some religious ritualistic ceremonies. Therefore, Krishna recommends, do it for me. And this is called archana. Everyone has a tendency to give something in charity. Krishna says, give it to me. And this means that all surplus money accumulated should be utilized in furthering the Krishna consciousness movement. Okay, so all this is how a karmic can become devotee. Very clear outline. And then the next verse. After many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all. That is, such a great soul is very rare. So this is the description of jnana, how a jnani becomes a devotee. The living entity, while executing devotional service or transcendental rituals, after many, many births, may actually become situated in transcendental pure knowledge that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the ultimate goal of spiritual realization. So here it says, after many, many births and deaths, that means he has performed all the rituals. He has been a very pious person for a long time, and now he has become situated. He may become situated in transcendental pure knowledge of Krishna. So in the beginning there will be some impersonal contamination, but then he will realize that the Bhagavan concept is higher, that is the origin of all other concepts. And then he can understand that Lord Shri Krishna's mercy is everything, that he is the cause of all causes. So this is the Jnana Marga. Then yoga, Prabhupada writes, the culmination of all kinds of yoga practices lies in bhakti-yoga. All other yogas are but means to come to the point of bhakti, bhakti in bhakti-yoga. When you see the Lord in your meditation, then you surrender to Him. Okay, so through any occupation, one can attain the Lord, but only under transcendental modes. And then the next lesson, 36, Srila Prabhupada says that the result of all these processes are actually attained by bhakti alone. The result of work is to satisfy material needs, the result of knowledge is to attain salvation, and the result of mysticism is to see the all-pervading Godhead in His localized aspect. All this can be attained indirectly by transcendental loving service. There is a similar verse in 8th chapter, I believe, of Gita. Well, this is not a verse, but similar statement. Okay? And then, therefore, all scriptural, in the last lesson, says that, therefore, in all scriptures, therefore, the only aim is how to attain Shri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay, well, this was the outline of this Adhikarana. So first we identify what are the positions, then how important it is to be sincere and honest about our own position. Then through any position we can attain Krishna, provided we follow the transcendental instructions of Krishna and his pure devotees. By bhakti alone we can attain the goal of all other processes, and therefore all scriptures emphasize praise, Krishna and pure devotion service. So this is the answer to the doubt, how can an ordinary person attain Krishna? By performing his ordinary, so-called ordinary duty. Well, obviously the duty becomes spiritualized and it's not so ordinary anymore, because it becomes yagya, sacrifice. And now the next doubt will be, Holy Krishna. Here doubt may arise. Is it possible to attain the transcendental Lord Shri Krishna by performing material activities? Just like Arjuna is asking similar questions in the beginning of 3rd and 5th chapter. And the question was something like, if I engage in this nasty warfare, I will suffer the simple reactions. So Arjuna could not grasp that devotion service doesn't bring any reaction. So in the same way here, still there is a doubt that this material, these activities are material. Performance of duties. Well, while we are just told that they are spiritualized. Okay, Hare Krishna. That's it. We went through the whole Adhikarana. But next time, please read through also, because you'll get better results. So next time, tomorrow we start with Adhikarana 6, the last one from the Sambandha part.
This Adhikarana, it's tough to get an actual handle on it because for most devotees in a practical sense, because, and this just comes down to the conversations in the Gita, because essentially all you need to do is turn to Krishna, right? And that does everything. That gives you the result of everything. You can't get a result without turning to Krishna.
Yeah.
So some people, understanding that point, say there's no point in engaging in any duties. You just engage in bhakti, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter that by nature I'm a rat bag gutter punk. I'm just doing this. So, but this Adhikarana shows that it specifically says that your nature is because of the modes of nature, right?
Yeah.
But then somehow you can't get to Krishna unless you're transcendental to the modes. So that's another thing that people might say, well, then exactly, that's why I shouldn't engage in those things, right?
How
But
can
it points out that the only way to get free from the influence of those modes is to influence that exact nature in Krishna service. So it purifies it, which is why engaging in another's occupation isn't going to purify you, because you don't have that thing holding you down.
Right. Yeah, that's very
So I appreciate very much this Adhikarana, because it seems to be confusing at first. It's like, these are the natures, they're because of the modes. You have to become transcendental to the modes in order to understand Krishna, right? So then people are like, all right, well, I avoid my duty then, because it's the modes, that's why, right? So if we miss the point, the actual point, then we can be stuck for a very long time, either thinking that we actually are engaged in Krishna's direct service because we're doing, something, or that there's no hope, so why bother? Because it's in the modes.
Yeah. In other words, we have to start from the position where we are right now, and our position is material position. We are materially influenced. We cannot jump to the spiritual position just because we think we can. We cannot just attain Bhava like this. I mean, we could. It's possible. Prabhupada said it takes just one moment. But just by mental adjustment, it is not possible. Otherwise, we become like sahajas. So we are under the modes, so we start from under the modes. We start engaging everything, all our capacities in Krishna. That's
And it actually makes it easier for us, but somehow we make it more difficult. We say, yeah, but if it's better to be, this, then I'd rather act in that capacity. But then we're not actually engaging our nature, we're engaging someone else's nature. We're not getting any purification, but we're acting in a position that we think is superior.
Yeah, driven by false ego. Because we usually try to go to a superior position, of course.
Naturally.
unless we go both ways. We go to the spiritual position for prestige and facility, but then we also go to this interior position so that we can justify it. And it's not identification. Yeah. Okay. Stop here. Om Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Prabhupada ki jai, so it was a ki jai. Jai is like, oh.